Picture a trout on a hook, its gills working overtime as it struggles for its life. Now, does that fish feel pain, fear, even panic? Or is it just a collection of reflexes, like, a biological machine with no real capacity for suffering? This is a question that has troubled scientists, philosophers, and even anglers for centuries. For many of us, fish seem like creatures from another world. Their silent existence beneath the water's surface, those blank stares, and their seemingly simple lives make it easy to dismiss them as unfeeling beings. We happily reel them in by the millions, confine them to cramped tanks, and rarely give a second thought to their inner lives. But what if we've had it wrong all along? What if fish are far more complex and aware than we ever imagined? In recent years, a growing body of scientific evidence has begun to challenge our long-held assumptions about these fascinating creatures. And no, this isn't just about anthropomorphism projecting human emotions onto animals. This is about looking at the science with fresh eyes and asking whether fish, despite their alien appearance and habitat, might share some fundamental experiences with the animals we consider closer to ourselves. The answer, it turns out, is far more complicated and intriguing than we might expect. The quest to understand fish consciousness takes us on a journey beneath the surface, into a world that often feels alien to our own. It's a world where sound travels differently, where colors shimmer in ways our eyes can barely perceive, and where senses we take for granted operate in ways we're only beginning to comprehend. To truly grasp the possibility of fish emotions, we need to step outside our human-centric perspective and begin to appreciate the unique ways in which fish experience their world. Fish inhabit an environment that is fundamentally different from our own, and their sensory systems have evolved to navigate and thrive within these watery depths. Consider, for instance, the lateral line, a sensory organ running along the sides of most fish that allows them to detect minute vibrations and pressure changes in the water. This sixth sense gives them a detailed 360-degree view of their surroundings, helping them navigate in darkness, locate prey, and avoid predators with remarkable precision. Or think about their sense of smell, which in some species is thousands of times more acute than our own. Fish can detect even the faintest traces of chemicals in the water, allowing them to identify mates, recognize familiar territory, and even sense the approach of danger from afar. These are just two examples of the many ways in which fish experience a sensory world that is rich, complex, and entirely foreign to us land-dwelling creatures. Imagine diving into a cool, clear lake. As you descend, the sounds of the human world fade away, replaced by a muffled symphony of bubbles, currents, and the distant calls of unseen creatures. This is the sensory world of fishes, a realm dominated by water's unique physical properties, where light behaves differently, sounds travel further, and even the faintest vibrations can carry vital information. To understand whether fish have feelings, we must first attempt to understand how they perceive their environment. Unlike us, fish are entirely immersed in their sensory landscape. They don't have the luxury of closing their eyes to shut out a disturbing sight, or covering their ears to block out a jarring noise. Their survival depends on their ability to constantly process a stream of sensory data from their surroundings. This doesn't mean that fish are passive recipients of sensory overload. Far from it, fish have evolved a remarkable array of senses that allow them to filter, prioritize, and interpret the information that is most relevant to their survival and well-being. They can focus on specific sounds, smells, or movements while filtering out background noise. They can detect subtle changes in water pressure that indicate the approach of a predator or the presence of potential prey. And, as we'll explore in the coming sections, there's growing evidence that fish are not simply reacting reflexively to these sensory inputs. They are actively making sense of their world, using their senses to learn, remember, and even perhaps to experience a range of emotions. When we think of animal senses, vision often comes first to mind. And while it's true that sight plays a crucial role in the lives of many fish, their visual world is quite different from our own. In the underwater realm, light behaves differently. It's absorbed and scattered by water molecules, making objects appear less distinct and colors less vibrant, especially at greater depths. Despite these challenges, fish eyes are remarkably well suited to their environment. Many species have spherical lenses that allow them to see clearly both in front of and behind them, providing a wide field of view that's essential for detecting predators and prey. Some fish, particularly those that inhabit murky waters or the deep sea, have evolved exceptional low-light vision, thanks to an abundance of light-sensitive cells called rods in their retinas. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of fish vision is the diversity of color perception across different species. While humans have 3 types of color receptors, or cones, in our eyes, some fish have 4 or even 5, allowing them to see ultraviolet and polarized light, invisible to us. This expanded color vision likely plays a crucial role in communication, camouflage, and foraging. For example, many reef fish sport vibrant colors and patterns that are only visible under ultraviolet light, allowing them to signal potential mates or rivals without attracting the attention of predators. This intricate interplay of light and color in the underwater world hints at the complexity of fish visual perception and underscores the importance of moving beyond our human-centric view of sight. Imagine feeling a gentle current against your skin, not just as a sensation of touch, but as a source of spatial awareness, like an invisible hand guiding you through a darkened room. This is the essence of the lateral line, a remarkable sensory system found in fish and some amphibians that allows them to perceive vibrations and pressure changes in the water. Running along the sides of a fish's body, the lateral line consists of a series of tiny pores connected to fluid-filled canals. Within these canals lie specialized sensory receptors called neuromasts, which are exquisitely sensitive to even the slightest disturbances in the water. When pressure waves, generated by swimming fish, moving objects, or even currents, reach the lateral line, they cause the fluid inside the canals to vibrate, stimulating the neuromasts. This information is then relayed to the fish's brain, providing it with a detailed 3-dimensional map of its surroundings. The lateral line is so sensitive that fish can detect the wake left behind by other animals, even in complete darkness. They can use this information to track prey, avoid predators, navigate obstacles, and even coordinate their movements within a school. The lateral line essentially functions as a form of distant touch, allowing fish to feel their way through their environment without relying solely on sight. This remarkable sensory adaptation highlights the extraordinary ways in which fish have evolved to thrive in their watery world, relying on senses that are, well, completely foreign to our own human experience. Close your eyes and imagine the aroma of freshly baked bread wafting towards you, tempting your taste buds. Now amplify that sensation 1,000-fold, and you begin to grasp the power of smell and taste in the aquatic world. For fish, these chemical senses are not just about savoring a meal, they're essential for survival, guiding them through their environment, shaping their behavior, and influencing their interactions with other creatures. Unlike our own sense of smell, which relies on airborne odor molecules, fish detect dissolved chemicals in the water. They do this using nostrils, or nares, located on their snouts. These nares lead to olfactory rosettes, folds of tissue containing specialized sensory cells that bind to specific chemicals. When a chemical binds to a receptor cell, it triggers a signal that is sent to the fish's brain, where it is interpreted as a particular smell. Fish also possess taste buds, but unlike humans, their taste buds are not confined to their mouths. In many species, taste buds are found all over their bodies, including their fins, lips, and even their whiskers, or barbels. This allows them to taste their environment as they swim, detecting food, potential mates, and even toxins. The sensitivity of a fish's sense of smell and taste is honestly astounding. Some species can detect minute concentrations of chemicals, equivalent to a single drop of perfume diffused in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. This remarkable ability allows them to locate food, recognize familiar territory, identify kin, and even sense the fear of their prey. It's a world of chemical communication and perception far beyond our human comprehension. Before we delve into the science of fish pain, it's helpful to consider why pain exists in the first place. From an evolutionary perspective, pain serves a critical function. It's the body's alarm system, alerting us to danger and prompting us to take action to protect ourselves from harm. Imagine touching a hot stove. The searing pain compels you to withdraw your hand instantly, preventing severe burns. This immediate, reflexive response is essential for survival. Without the ability to feel pain, we would be oblivious to injuries and more likely to succumb to them. This fundamental principle of pain as a survival mechanism applies not only to humans, but to all animals with a central nervous system. It's why even simple organisms like worms will recoil from noxious stimuli. So it stands to reason that fish, having evolved over millions of years in environments rife with potential hazards, would also possess the capacity for pain. However, demonstrating pain in animals that can't tell us what they're feeling poses a significant scientific challenge. For decades, the question of whether fish feel pain was a matter of debate, often dismissed due to their seemingly simple brains and our inability to fully comprehend their experiences. But as our understanding of animal cognition and neurobiology has advanced, so too has the evidence supporting the existence of pain in fish. One of the main arguments used against fish feeling pain has historically centered on the structure of their brains. Mammals, including us humans, have this region called the neocortex, which is responsible for higher-level cognitive functions, like the conscious experience of pain. Fish, on the other hand, don't have a neocortex, and so, some scientists concluded that they just couldn't feel pain the same way we do. But here's the thing. That argument rests on a pretty flawed assumption, that the neocortex is the only part of the brain capable of processing pain. In reality, pain perception is way more complex. It involves multiple brain regions, including some pretty ancient ones that both fish and mammals share. Regions like the thalamus, amygdala, and hypothalamus all play a role in detecting and responding to harmful stimuli. And it's not just about brain structure. Studies have shown that fish have nociceptors. Those are specialized nerve endings that detect things like heat, cold, pressure, and chemicals. These nociceptors are spread throughout a fish's body in places like their skin, fins, and mouth, which, not surprisingly, are areas that are especially vulnerable in their watery world. When these nociceptors get triggered, they send signals along nerve fibers right to the brain, setting off a whole chain of physiological and behavioral responses. And honestly, these responses look a lot like what we see in mammals when they're in pain. So the anatomical evidence really does suggest that fish have the neural machinery needed to detect and process painful stimuli. So, while anatomy gives us some pretty compelling clues, the most convincing proof that fish feel pain? It's in their behavior. Over the past few decades, researchers have run all kinds of studies showing that fish react to painful experiences in ways that are strikingly similar to mammals. In one especially important study, scientists injected fish with either acid or a saline solution and then watched how they reacted. The fish that got the acid, they showed all sorts of pain-related behaviors. They rubbed the injection site against the tank walls, they ate less, and their gill ventilation rates went up, which is a sign of stress and breathing trouble. Meanwhile, the fish that got the saline, they barely changed their behavior. What's even more telling is what happened when the fish were given pain relief. When fish injected with acid were given morphine, their pain behaviors dropped noticeably. And that's a big deal because morphine works on opioid receptors, the same ones targeted by human painkillers. The fact that fish respond to morphine just like we do suggests that their pain is processed through similar neurological pathways. And it doesn't stop there. Fish can actually learn to avoid pain. In another experiment, fish were trained to associate a specific light with a mild electric shock. After a few pairings, they began avoiding the light, even when there was no shock. That kind of learning shows they remember and try to avoid painful experiences, something that goes way beyond a simple reflex. Pain isn't just about physical sensations, it's also emotional. It includes fear, anxiety, and distress. And while it's tricky to say for sure whether fish feel these emotions the same way we do, more and more evidence suggests they're capable of suffering. One of the clearest signs of stress in fish is the release of cortisol. That's a hormone they produce when they feel threatened. When fish are put in stressful situations, like being confined, handled, or exposed to predators, their cortisol levels go up, just like in stressed-out mammals. And when fish are exposed to chronic stress, they start showing all sorts of changes, both in behavior and in their bodies, that point to poor welfare. They might stop eating, become sluggish, get sick more easily, and even show changes in their brain chemistry. Long-term stress can really take a toll on their overall health. And this isn't just something we see in labs. Out in the wild, fish show behaviors that hint at emotional depth and awareness. They take part in complex courtship rituals, they hunt cooperatively, and they seem to understand and respond to their environments in ways that challenge the old idea that they're just simple, instinct-driven creatures. For centuries, fish were relegated to the realm of simple, instinct-driven creatures, their behaviors dismissed as mere reflexes triggered by environmental cues. Their underwater world, shrouded in silence and mystery, seemed to reinforce this perception, leading many to believe that fish were incapable of the cognitive feats displayed by their terrestrial counterparts. However, as we delve deeper into the lives of fish, we uncover a startling truth. Their behavior often defies simple explanations. It's not just about feeding, fleeing, and reproducing. It's about navigating complex social landscapes, remembering past experiences, and even exhibiting problem-solving abilities that rival those of some mammals and birds. These glimpses of cognitive complexity challenge our long-held assumptions about fish intelligence and raise intriguing questions about the inner lives of these often underestimated creatures. Could these behaviors be more than just hardwired responses to stimuli? Could they be driven by something akin to conscious thought, planning, and even emotion? While definitively proving fish sentience remains a challenge, the evidence for their cognitive capabilities continues to mount, urging us to reconsider our place in the web of life and to recognize the possibility of shared intelligence across species with vastly different evolutionary paths. One hallmark of intelligence is the ability to learn and remember, to adapt behavior based on past experiences. And in this realm, fish consistently surprise us. Far from being forgetful creatures of habit, fish demonstrate remarkable memory capabilities, recalling spatial layouts, recognizing individual humans, and even exhibiting long-term memory for past events. Consider the humble goldfish, often portrayed as having a memory span of mere seconds. In reality, goldfish can remember complex routes through mazes, associate specific colors with food rewards, and even learn to recognize their owners. Studies have shown that goldfish trained to perform simple tasks can remember those tasks months later, far exceeding their supposed 3-second memory limit. But it's not just goldfish that possess impressive memories. Migratory fish, such as salmon, undertake epic journeys, navigating thousands of miles across oceans and rivers to return to their natal streams to spawn. This incredible feat of navigation relies on a sophisticated internal compass and an uncanny ability to remember specific smells and landmarks encountered years earlier. Even more astonishing is the ability of some fish species to recognize individual human faces. Researchers have shown that archerfish, known for their ability to spit jets of water to capture prey, can be trained to distinguish between different human faces with remarkable accuracy. This ability, once thought to be exclusive to primates, suggests a level of visual processing and social cognition previously unimaginable in fish. Tool use, once considered a defining characteristic of human intelligence, has now been observed in a wide range of animal species, including birds, primates, and even invertebrates. And as it turns out, fish are no exception. From cracking open clams with well-aimed blows to constructing elaborate nests using carefully selected materials, fish exhibit a surprising repertoire of tool-using behaviors. One striking example comes from the coral reefs of the Indo-Pacific, where the orange-dotted tuskfish employs a remarkable strategy for accessing its favorite meal, clams. Lacking the brute force to crush the clam's shell with its jaws, the tuskfish instead uses a coral outcrop as an anvil, repeatedly smashing the clam against the hard surface until the shell cracks open. This ingenious behavior requires not only the identification of a suitable tool, but also the precise coordination of movements to successfully extract the clam's soft flesh. Another impressive example of problem-solving in fish comes from the Amazonian rivers of South America, where the archerfish displays its remarkable hunting prowess. As its name suggests, the archerfish captures its prey by spitting jets of water with pinpoint accuracy, knocking insects and small animals from overhanging vegetation into the water below. This seemingly simple behavior belies a complex understanding of physics and projectile motion. The archerfish must account for the refraction of light at the water's surface, adjusting its aim to compensate for the distorted image of its target. Furthermore, it can modulate the force and shape of its water jets, creating a powerful strike or a gentle nudge depending on the size and distance of its prey. So, social intelligence. It's often seen as one of the defining features of advanced cognition. It's the ability to navigate complex relationships, communicate effectively, and cooperate with others. And while fish might not engage in the same kinds of intricate social interactions as, say, primates or dolphins, their underwater societies are anything but simple. A lot of fish species live in groups, ranging from those massive schools of sardines to the small, close-knit families of cichlids. Living in groups brings a bunch of benefits, like better protection from predators, more efficient foraging, and, improved access to mates. But it also means they need pretty refined social skills to make it all work. Fish actually communicate with each other in all sorts of ways, using body postures, fin movements, and even quick changes in color. They can recognize individuals in their group, they set up dominance hierarchies, and they even work together when hunting or defending themselves. And get this, some fish even lie. Seriously. Take cleaner wrasses, for example. These little guys are supposed to help out bigger fish by eating parasites off their skin. But sometimes they cheat. Instead of just munching on the parasites, they sneak a bite of healthy tissue. That kind of trickery suggests they might understand what the other fish expects and use that knowledge to their own advantage. All right. So here's the thing. The idea that fish, those scaly creatures swimming around out there, might actually feel things or have intelligence similar to mammals or birds, well, that strikes a lot of people as a bit much. I mean, fish don't have facial expressions, they don't make complex sounds, and they don't really have the kind of social structures we usually associate with sentient animals. So, when someone claims that fish can experience emotions like fear, pain, or even joy, it can seem like a pretty big leap. Some folks see it as stepping away from solid science and into the realm of wishful thinking, or maybe even anthropomorphism. Skeptics are quick to point out that if you're going to make such a bold claim, the burden of proof is on you. Sure, they agree that fish have some amazing sensory abilities and show complex behaviors, but they're not convinced that this necessarily means fish are conscious or sentient. Just because two things are related doesn't mean one causes the other. For instance, just because a fish reacts to something painful in a way that looks like a pain response in mammals, that doesn't automatically mean it's actually feeling pain. It could just be a reflex, a kind of built-in reaction to a harmful stimulus, without any sort of conscious experience behind it. And then there's the whole brain structure issue. Fish don't have a neocortex, which is the part of the mammalian brain that handles higher-level functions like conscious perception. So, skeptics argue that even if other parts of the brain are involved in processing pain, they're probably just handling basic survival stuff, like recognizing threats, not generating actual feelings. One of the biggest criticisms aimed at people who argue that fish are sentient is this idea of anthropomorphism. That's when we project human emotions or thoughts onto animals that might not experience the world the way we do. Skeptics warn that looking at fish behavior through a human lens can really mess with our ability to understand them for who they are. For example, imagine a fish rubbing its mouth against the side of a tank after getting an injection. To us, that might look like it's nursing a sore spot, kind of like a human would. But that behavior could mean something totally different for the fish. It might be trying to get rid of something that feels weird, or maybe it's itchy, or just exploring its surroundings. And then there's the whole play thing. Watching fish chase each other or interact with objects might seem joyful to us, like they're having fun. But those behaviors could actually be about practicing hunting moves or figuring out who's in charge, not necessarily about enjoyment the way we think of it. That's why skeptics really push for solid scientific methods, controlled experiments, objective observation, and all that, to figure out what's really going on. They argue that if we start attributing complex emotions to fish without strong evidence, we risk not only weakening the argument, but also misreading the amazing variety of animal behavior through a very human-centered lens. Even if we grant that fish possess sophisticated sensory systems, exhibit complex behaviors, and even experience some form of pain or stress, a fundamental question remains: do they have subjective experiences? Can they feel the searing agony of a hook piercing their flesh, the suffocating panic of a net closing in, or the simple pleasure of a sunbeam warming their scales? This question of subjective experience, of what it's like to be a fish, lies at the heart of the debate about animal consciousness. It's a question that has plagued philosophers and scientists for centuries, and one that may ultimately prove unanswerable through scientific inquiry alone. Consciousness, by its very nature, is a private internal experience. We can observe a fish's behavior, measure its brain activity, and even manipulate its environment, but we can never truly know what it feels like to be that fish. We can only infer its subjective experience based on our observations and our understanding of our own consciousness, a leap of faith that some are unwilling to make. Skeptics argue that until we develop more sophisticated methods for measuring and understanding consciousness, the question of whether fish truly feel remains in the realm of speculation. While acknowledging the ethical implications of potentially inflicting pain and suffering on sentient beings, they advocate for a cautious approach, emphasizing the need for robust evidence before making sweeping claims about the inner lives of animals so different from ourselves. The question of whether fish have feelings is not merely an academic exercise. It has profound implications for how we interact with these fascinating creatures. For too long, we have treated fish as little more than commodities, a source of food, sport, or entertainment, without giving much thought to their capacity for suffering. But the growing body of evidence suggesting that fish are far more sentient than we once believed demands a fundamental shift in our perspective. Consider the fishing industry, a global enterprise that extracts billions of fish from the ocean each year, often using methods that inflict immense pain and suffering. If fish are indeed capable of feeling pain, fear, and stress, then the ethical implications of our current fishing practices are deeply troubling. Can we, in good conscience, continue to subject these animals to such cruel treatment, or do we have a moral obligation to seek more humane alternatives? The same ethical considerations apply to aquaculture, the practice of farming fish in confined environments. While aquaculture is often touted as a sustainable alternative to wild-caught fish, the high stocking densities, artificial environments, and potential for disease outbreaks raise serious concerns about fish welfare. If we are to embrace aquaculture as a viable food source, we must do so in a way that prioritizes the well-being of these animals, providing them with ample space, enrichment, and a life free from unnecessary suffering. Beyond the commercial realm, millions of fish are kept as pets in aquariums around the world. While many aquarium enthusiasts genuinely care for their fish, providing them with spacious tanks, stimulating environments, and a varied diet, countless others languish in small, barren bowls, deprived of the opportunity to engage in natural behaviors. Recognizing fish as sentient beings requires us to rethink our responsibilities as pet owners, ensuring that we are providing for their physical and psychological needs. The scientific exploration of fish sentience is not just about uncovering facts. It's about challenging our assumptions, expanding our circle of compassion, and redefining our relationship with the natural world. For far too long, we have placed ourselves at the pinnacle of a perceived hierarchy of life, assuming that our intelligence, our emotions, and our capacity for suffering set us apart from other species. But the more we learn about the inner lives of animals like fish, the more we realize that the boundaries between us and them are not so clear-cut. Fish may not experience the world in exactly the same way we do, but they share with us the fundamental capacity for feeling, for forming relationships, and for experiencing a range of emotions. This realization has the power to transform not only how we treat fish, but also how we view ourselves and our place in the web of life. It compels us to move beyond a purely utilitarian view of nature, where animals are valued solely for their economic or recreational worth, and to embrace a more ethical and compassionate approach, one that recognizes the intrinsic value of all living beings. The quest to understand fish sentience is ultimately a journey of self-discovery, a reminder that we are not the sole proprietors of consciousness on this planet. By opening our minds to the possibility of shared sentience across species, we not only enrich our understanding of the natural world, but also create the potential for a more just and compassionate future for all. The question of whether fish have feelings, once relegated to the realm of philosophical pondering, has now entered the domain of scientific inquiry, prompting us to reconsider our assumptions about these often overlooked creatures. While definitive proof of subjective experience in fish may remain elusive, the weight of evidence suggests that we can no longer deny the possibility that they experience a range of emotions, from the searing agony of injury to the subtle pleasures of a stimulating environment. This growing understanding of fish sentience presents us with a profound ethical challenge. Can we, in good conscience, continue to treat these animals as mere commodities, subjecting them to the immense suffering inherent in industrial fishing practices and intensive aquaculture systems? Or do we have a moral obligation to reevaluate our relationship with these creatures, seeking more humane alternatives that prioritize their well-being alongside our own needs? The journey into the minds of fish is far from over. Many questions remain unanswered, mysteries yet to be unraveled. But one thing is clear. The more we learn about fish, the more we realize how much we have yet to discover. Their sensory worlds, their cognitive abilities, and their complex social interactions challenge our anthropocentric biases, urging us to expand our circle of compassion and to recognize the interconnectedness of all life on Earth. Perhaps in the end, the most important lesson we can learn from fish is not about their capacity for suffering, but about our own capacity for empathy. By opening our minds to the possibility of shared sentience across species, we embark on a journey of self-discovery, one that has the potential to transform not only how we treat animals, but also how we view ourselves and our place in the grand tapestry of life.